Hi, I'm Claire from Care for the Family, and I'm here on the Talking Faith series with Putty Putman. It is so great to have you with us, Putty.
Thank you, Claire. I'm glad to be here too.
So let's kick off. Just tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm from the States. I was born and raised and still live in the Chicago area. I have been married for coming up on 17 or 18 years at this point. My wife and I have 3 kids, 11-year-old girl, a 9-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old girl. And I have been involved in pastoral ministry in the States for 12 years, about at this point. I was actually originally trained as a scientist, and then God called me into ministry.
Oh, very different career change.
A little bit different, yeah.
So with 3 kids, all under 11, that is a busy household for you, I'm sure.
It is a lot of fun, but it's a lot. Yeah, it can be.
Well, this series is all about talking about how we can nurture faith as parents with our children at home in everyday life. So what are your hopes for your children in terms of faith?
Oh man, I love that question. For me, what I want is I want them to have a vibrant relationship with Jesus, where he is real to them. They can experience him, they are walking with him, and that ultimately they can follow him into what he's leading their lives to be, which I see bits and pieces. I can't see all of it because, they have to follow him into that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of it goes on in their own heads, doesn't it? That you don't actually see what God is saying to them. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what are some of the things that you and your wife practically do at home to nurture faith and make that real in your family life every day?
Yeah. One of, I think the first thing, I suppose, is probably our mindset, which is, in the church, we can at times sort of almost delegate the discipleship of our children to the church. Mm-hmm. And, for a long time, I don't think that was the way parents thought. Yeah. But in our day, it can be the way that we think. And so I want the help of the community, and I recognize there are people who are gifted at children's ministry. Mm-hmm. I am not, and I'll acknowledge that easily. So I want their help. I want their input. I want to be able to benefit from their gifting. But I don't want to absolve myself of the parental responsibility of discipleship.
That's good, yeah.
And so for me, the first is the mindset that this is my job first, mm-hmm. and the church can help, but it's actually my job first. They're my kids. They're not the church's kids. They're my kids. So the mindset is big. One of the things I have found is I do what I can to just invite my children into the things that I'm already doing and experiencing in my faith journey. Mm-hmm. I was raised, I suppose, and have made the practice of I do a quiet time with the Lord every morning. And of course, some days it's a little bit longer, some days it's a little bit shorter, whatever. But I try and do that. And of course, I find it a little easier if I'm not overly interrupted by kids, right? I get a little more out of it at least. But let's suppose that does happen. Well, in that moment, I try and find a way, to the extent that I can, to invite my children into some degree of that experience. Yeah. Hey, why don't you grab your Bible and sit down and read, and we can, read together or whatever. We do simple things like we kind of who's gonna pray for the meal here, and we'll have one of our kids pray, and then I'll pray, and we'll kind of model doing things together. Yeah. I do a fair bit of traveling and speaking, and as my kids have been getting older, I'm trying to begin to take them on some of those trips so they can be in those environments and see people doing church things. And I remember one time it was really special. I took my daughter down. I did a conference. I was doing about half the sessions. Another friend of mine was doing half the sessions. And of course, she gets to fly on a plane, which is exciting, all these kinds of things. But there was actually something about that experience where she paid so much attention to the conference. Yeah. And more attention to the other sessions than mine, hey. Which, hey, I'm not complaining at all. That's great. And so much so that on the way home, we're in the airport, and my daughter experiences, she's, 9, I want to say at the time, 9 years old. And we're sitting there, and across the airport, my daughter sees a lady who had some kind of an obvious physical condition happening.
Yes,
I don't remember the
yes.
details, but her heart was just tugged. She said, "Dad, can we go pray for her?"
Amazing.
My 9-year-old here at the airport looking at this, he said, "Let's go pray for her," and I'm like, "Oh, that's convicting to me,"
Yes,
It's like,
yeah.
of course we should, and so we went over and we prayed for her, and it was just this beautiful moment. But it happened simply because I kind of like invited her in. Even I'm here in the UK for about 2 weeks doing some tour and different ministry activities. Before we left, we gathered the family around, and I said, "Okay, here's what we're doing. Jesus has called me to go to the United Kingdom to do some ministry,
Yeah.
but really, this is our whole family doing this.
It's great. That's
because I have to go and I have a part, but it affects you too. You have a part.
Yes.
And so let's all pray together. And will you pray for me, as I go, and just kind of, that kind of inclusivity, I think, is really important.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I did the same thing. Obviously, I'm not at my home. I'm somewhere else filming this with you today. And I had the same conversation with my daughter before I left. She's also, she's 12, actually. I was going to say she was 11. But we had that conversation because she'd prayed for me as we left that I would make a difference chatting to people. And I was able to say to her, but you're part of this. You're making a difference chatting to people because you're allowing me to go. So I think it's really important to include them. And if you don't travel, if your parents watching this and you don't travel, I think, we can include them in our ministry at home and in church in the same way, can't we?
Yeah, it's not about the travel bit. It's about, whatever it is we're doing with God, inviting them in.
Absolutely. Well, it's been great to listen to you, but I'd love you to give one piece of advice now. So if you were at the beginning of your journey of raising faith in your home, what piece of advice would you have given yourself?
Oh, I love that. I think the best parenting and the best discipleship of our children does not exist in technique. I think when many of us become parents, we all have like the sort of bumps and bruises from our own upbringing because we had human parents. And so sometimes I think in response to that, we can become very technique oriented as parents. What do I need to learn how to do differently so I don't make the same mistakes or whatever it may be. And as time has gone on, I think I've learned that parenting well and discipling our children well is more about our being than it is about our doing.
That's good.
And if I can be a healthy human being that has a vibrant relationship with God, whatever flows out of that is going to be the best possible thing I can give my kids. And so I now try and spend 90% of my time and energy on the person I'm being as a human being, as a parent, as someone who walks with Jesus, and 10% of my time on trying to improve my technique in some way, shape, or form. And the more I've invested in that, the more I've seen the fruit of it. It's tough. Like every kid's got to be parented differently. Yes. Every situation's got to be resolved differently. There's no possible way to be well equipped for the millions of scenarios that parenting presents. But if I can be grounded and whole and healthy and given to God in my being, anything that flows from that into my kids is going to be gold.
Yeah, it's great. Well, it has been so great to talk to you. I'm so glad that we've had this opportunity. Thank you so much, Putty.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.